How's that? Hello. All right. Okay. We're getting there. New setup, new sounds. How's everybody doing tonight? Even a different intro. Like everything's just a little bit different. Yeah, right? Bring that down a little bit. Got the mixing board working. This arm. Hello, over here. Because the camera's I think the camera's inverted? I don't know. I'm looking in it isn't a mirror. A mirror would be, this hand would be over there. How was everybody's Christmas? How'd you guys do? We did Christmas stories last Sunday. And then I had some time off, and I thought that I was going to get an opportunity to just crank out whole new sound setup, get to working on my writing, and get going on everything. So, yeah, not a lot of that happened. Family things came up. Focus on family came most prevalent, and that's all right. That's good. Had to take care of the kids. Coordinated a whole bunch of different things. I did get a lot of time. I built, if you guys check it out on the Discord, I did get it built. Let's see. Mic could be a little louder maybe. Check that out. If you guys check out the Discord, I was posting pictures in there. The shelves that I made, the mixing board thing that I made. And so I got my studio speakers, the monitors are right up here. I just hit a button over on the mixing board and that can turn them on if I want to. Everything that you guys are hearing, more or less I'm hearing through my headphones now. So I got everything routing through the mixing board. Should be a better version of the mix. The microphone should be better. I'm not using any sound canceling, anything special. The only thing I have on the audio end that I can't directly hear is the limiter built into the OBS software. So that's going to be basically trying to prevent me, anything I send from the mixing board coming in way too hot. Let's say all the music, all my sound effects, the game, me talking. If all that stuff starts getting crazy, the limiter is supposed to kind of help keep that so you don't hear me like overly peaking. So hopefully I'm coming in crystal clear. I'm sounding good. I don't want my voice to sound muffled or awkward, right? I don't want any like where it doesn't quite sound natural. Like there's that, when we start pushing that high end, we start getting distorted. Sounds great for bass guitar or an electric guitar in a rock band. Not so great if we're trying to get good audio, right? So yeah, that's a little explanation upon what's been going on behind the scenes for me. With that, I'm going to have to address all my scene layouts, get all kinds of new stuff going on over here, or how I'm going to be handling that, to include how I route all the audio through, making sure all my games come through with audio. Right now, I'm kind of fighting my music player. I'm still using Winamp. It keeps reverting back to a different sound card than the main one. I think because my digital analog converter times out if not being used, and so then Winamp doesn't know where to send the audio. But it should sound good now. Let me know if it doesn't. That's why I pinned the thing. Totally be awesome. Help me out there. Other announcements. Yeah, well, so with all that, I didn't know if I was going to even get a chance to record tonight. I'm working on the back end with Turb. Turb, I hope you're out there. Shout out to Turb. He has begun helping me with his personal request, and I think it's super cool. I really do want to collab with him on that. We're doing the We Delete. That's going to come up soon. I haven't had a chance to proofread. Like I said, I got a lot that I wanted to get done. I didn't get to it. So I didn't get to proofread my chapter 3. I didn't kind of tie a bow on that one. I'm not going to release something that's obviously not fully finished, especially if I want to change it a little bit, because I got to make sure the story is going in the direction we got to get it in. And so sorry, no Ral tonight. We're going to do one more thing. I'm going to call this my pre-birthday New Year story sanctuary, my little reading today. January 1st is my birthday. I'm going to try to get a stream in that Wednesday. I don't know if it'll be in the morning. That's so good to hear. That sounds great. Thank you. I'm going to try to get something in the morning. Oh, whoops. There we go. And we'll see. I don't know if it's going to be the morning or the evening. I'll have to figure out the schedule. And yeah, let's see. I'm going to get things pulled up here. So I didn't know what it was kind of like last minute. Like, oh my gosh, am I going to even get to pull this off? And I did manage to pull it off, I think. I got some options. There we go. Looking great. Beautiful picture of the woods here. So I got some ideas. I got some things. We're going to see how it works out. And hopefully all is well. Also, hey, check it out. I have a new chair. I am no longer sitting in a folding chair. Thank you, Catherine, for the wonderful Christmas gift. I thought I was going to have to spend my first streaming dollars on this, you know, but instead, she hooked it up. So, yeah, that's my announcements. Look forward to the birthday stream. Guys, come on in on my birthday. Say what's up. Wish me happy birthday. I'd really appreciate that. I think it'll be so much fun to do a birthday stream. Maybe some of you awesome people out there could get a little hype train going for us. That'd be so much fun. It's really cool when the community gets involved. So definitely say what's up on my birthday. And then right after that, we're going to Fargo for wrestling. It's going to be intense. It's going to be fun. Bop, bop, bop. All right. With that, let's see. We're going to get into tonight's readings. Had to improvise a little bit. So, all right, got the storytime emotes in there. Thank you, Scald Mare. Loving it. If you got the storytime emotes, get them going. It is time for story time. My first reading tonight is going to be The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. And be one traveler, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear, though as for that passing there, had warned them really about the same. And both that morning equally lay, in leaves no step had trodden back. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. All right, let's get into our next one here. This is part of the Dubliners collection of James Joyce, After the Race.
I'm Jimmy. I work at the car race where the cars race.
Ethel M. Dell, After the Race, from the collection Dubliners. The cars came scudding in towards Dublin, running evenly like pellets in the groove of the Naas Road. At the crest of the hill, at Inchicory, sightseers had gathered in clumps to watch the cars careening homeward, and through this channel of poverty and inaction, the continent sped, its wealth and industry. Now and again, the clumps of people raised their cheer of the greatly oppressed. Their sympathy, however, was for the blue cars. The cars of their friends, the French. The French, moreover, were virtual victors. Their team had finished solidly, they had been placed second and third, and the driver of the winning German car was reported a Belgian. Each blue car therefore received a double measure of welcome as it topped the crest of the hill, and each cheer of welcome was acknowledged with smiles and nods by those in the car. In one of those trimly built cars was a parody of 4 young men whose spirits seemed to be at present well above the level of successful Gallicism. In fact, these 4 young men were almost hilarious. They were Charles Seguin, the owner of the car, Andre Riviere, a young electrician of Canadian birth, a huge Hungarian named Villona, and a neatly groomed young man named Doyle. Seguin was in good humor because he had unexpectedly received some orders in advance. He was about to start a motor establishment in Paris. And Riviere was in good humor because he was to be appointed manager of the establishment. These 2 young men, who were cousins, were also in good humor because of the success of the French cars. Villona was in good humor because he had had a very satisfactory luncheon. And besides, he was an optimist by nature. The 4th member of the party, however, was too excited to be genuinely happy. He was about 26 years of age, with a soft light brown mustache and rather innocent-looking gray eyes. His father, who had begun life as an advanced nationalist, had modified his views early. He had made his money as a butcher in Kingstown, and by opening shops in Dublin and in the suburbs, he had made his money many times over. He had also been fortunate enough to secure some of the police contracts, and in the end, he had become rich enough to be alluded to in the Dublin newspapers as a merchant prince. He had sent his son to England to be educated in a big Catholic college and had afterwards sent him to Dublin University to study law. Jimmy did not study very earnestly and took to bad courses for a while. He had money and he was popular, and he divided his time curiously between musical and motoring circles. Then he had been sent for a term to Cambridge to see a little life. His father, remonstrative, but covertly proud of his excess, had paid his bills and brought him home. It was at Cambridge that he had met Seguin. They were not much more than acquaintances as yet, but Jimmy found great pleasure in the society of one who had seen so much of the world and was reputed to own some of the biggest hotels in France. Such a person, as his father agreed, was well worth knowing, even if he had not been the charming companion he was. Villona was entertaining, also a brilliant pianist, but unfortunately very poor. The car ran on merrily with its cargo of hilarious youth. The 2 cousins sat at the front seat. Jimmy and his Hungarian friend sat behind. Decidedly, Villona was in the excellent spirits. He kept up a deep bass of of melody for miles of the road. The Frenchmen flung their laughter and light words over their shoulders, and often Jimmy had to strain forward to catch the quick phrase. This was not altogether pleasant for him, as he had nearly always to make a deft guess at the meaning and shout back a suitable answer in the face of high wind. Besides, Villona's humming would confuse anybody, the noise of the car too. Rapid motion through space elates one, so does notoriety, so does the possession of money. These were 3 good reasons for Jimmy's excitement. He had been seen by many of his friends that day in the company of these continentals. At the control, Seguin had presented him to one of the French competitors, and, in answer to his confused murmur of compliment, the swarthy face of the driver had disclosed a line of shining white teeth. It was pleasant after that honor to the return to the profane world of spectators amid nudges and significant looks. Then, as to money, he really had a great sum under his control. Seguin, perhaps, would not think it a great sum, but Jimmy, who, in spite of temporary errors, was at heart the inheritor of solid instincts, knew well with what difficulty it had been got together. This knowledge had previously kept his bills within the limits of reasonable recklessness, and if he had been so conscious of the labor latent in money, where there had been question merely of some freak of the higher intelligence, how much more so now when he was about to stake the greater part of his substance. It was a serious thing for him. Of course, the investment was a good one, and Seguin had managed to give the impression that it was by a favor of friendship the mite of Irish money was to be included in the capital of the concern. Jimmy had a respect for his father's shrewdness in business matters, and in the case it had been his father who had first suggested the investment. Money to be made in the motor business, pots of money. Moreover, Seguin had the unmistakable air of wealth. Jimmy set out to translate into day's work that lordly car in which he sat. How smoothly it ran. In what style they had came careening across the country roads, the journey laid a magical finger on the genuine pulse of life, and gallantly the machinery of human nerves strove to the answer, the bounding courses of the swift blue animal. They drove down Dame Street. The street was busy with unusual traffic, loud with the horns of motorists and the gongs of impatient tram drivers. Near the bank, Seguin drove up, and Jimmy and his friends alighted. A little knot of people collected in the footpath to pay homage to the snorting motor. The party was to dine together that evening in Seguin's hotel, and meanwhile, Jimmy and his friend, who was staying with him, were to go home to dress. The car steered out slowly from Grafton Street, while the two young men pushed their way through the knot of gazers. They walked northward with a curious feeling of disappointment in the exercise, while the city hung its pale globes of light above them in the haze of the summer evening. In Jimmy's house, this dinner had been pronounced an occasion. A certain pride mingled with his parents' trepidation, a certain eagerness also to play fast and loose, for the names of the great foreign cities have at least this virtue. Jimmy, too, looked very well when he was dressed, and, as he stood in the hall giving a last equation to the bows of his dress tie, his father may have felt even commercially satisfied at having secured for his son qualities of often unpurchasable. His father, therefore, was unusually friendly with Villona, and his manner expressed a real respect for foreign accomplishments. But his subtlety of his host was probably lost upon the Hungarian, who was beginning to have a sharp desire for his dinner. The dinner was excellent, exquisite. Seguin, Jimmy decided, had a very refined taste. The party was increased by a young Englishman named Roth, who Jimmy had seen with Seguin at Cambridge. The young men supped in a snug room lit by electric candle lamps. They talked volubly and with little reserve. Jimmy, whose imagination was kindling, conceived the lively youth of the Frenchman twined elegantly upon the firm framework of the Englishman's manner. A graceful image of his, he thought, and a just one. He admired the dexterity with which their host directed the conversation. The five young men had various tastes, and their tongues had been loosened. Villona, with immense respect, began to discover to the mildly surprised Englishman the beauties of the English madrigal, deploring the loss of old instruments. Riviere not wholly ingenuously undertook to explain to Jimmy that the triumph of the French mechanicians, the resonant voice of the Hungarian, was about to prevail in ridicule of the spurious lutes of the romantic painters when Seguin shepherded his party into politics. Here was congenial ground for all. Jimmy, under generous influences, felt buried zeal of his father wake to life within him. He aroused the torpid Routh at last. The room grew doubly hot, and Seguin's task grew harder each moment. There was even danger of personal spite. The alert host, at an opportunity, lifted his glass to humanity, and, when the toast had been drunk, he threw open a window significantly. The night the city wore the mask of a capital. The five young men strolled along Stephen's Green in a faint cloud of aromatic smoke. They talked loudly and gaily, and their cloaks dangled from their shoulders. The people made way for them. At the corner of Grafton Street, a short fat man was putting two handsome ladies on a car in charge of another fat man. The car drove off, and the short fat man caught sight of the party. "Andre! It's Farley!" A torrent of talk followed. Farley was an American. No one knew very well what the talk was about. Villona and Riviere were the noisiest, but all the men were excited. They got up on a car, squeezing themselves together amid much laughter. They drove by the crowd, blended now into the soft colors to a music of merry bells. They took the train at Westland Row, and in a few seconds, as it seemed to Jimmy, they were walking out of Kingstown Station. The ticket collector saluted Jimmy. He was an old man. "Fine night, sir." It was a serene summer night. The harbor lay like a darkened mirror at their feet. They proceeded towards it with linked arms, singing Cadet Russell in a chorus, stamping their feet at every ho 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 hey vraiment. They got into a rowboat at the slip and made out for the American's yacht. There was to be supper, music, cards. Volono said with conviction, "It's delightful." There was a yacht piano in the cabin. Volono played a waltz for Farley and Riviere, Farley acting as cavalier and Riviere as lady. Then an impromptu square dance. The men devising original figures, the merriment. Jimmy took his part with it well. This was seeing life at last. Then Farley got out of breath and cried, "Stop!" A man brought in a light supper, and the young men sat down to it for form's sake. They drank, however. It was Bohemian. They drank Ireland, England, France, Hungary, the United States of America. Jimmy made a speech, a long speech, Volono saying, "Hear, hear," whenever there was a pause. There was a great clapping of hands when he sat down. It must have been a good speech. Farley clapped him on the back and laughed loudly. What jovial fellows. Good company they were. Cards, cards. The table was cleared. Volono returned quietly to his piano and played volontaires for them. The other men played game after game, flinging themselves boldly into the adventure. They drank the health of the Queen of Hearts and of the Queen of Diamonds. Jimmy felt obscurely the lack of an audience. The wit was flashing. Play ran very high and paper began to pass. Jimmy did not know exactly who was winning, but he knew that he was losing. But it was his own fault, for he frequently mistook his cards, and the other men had to calculate his IOUs for him. They were devils of fellows, but he wished they would stop. It was getting late. Someone gave the toast of the yacht, the Belle of Newport, and then someone proposed one great game for a finish. The piano had stopped. Volono must have gone up on deck. It was a terrible game. They stopped just before the end of it to drink for luck. Jimmy understood that the game lay between Roth and Seguin. What excitement. Jimmy was excited too. He would lose, of course. How much had he written away? The men rose to their feet to play the last tricks, talking and gesticulating. Ralph won. The cabin shook with the young men's cheering, and the cards were bundled together. They began then to gather in what they had won. Farley and Jimmy were the heaviest losers. He knew that he would regret in the morning, but at present he was glad of the rest, glad of the dark stupor that would cover up his folly. He leaned his elbows on the table and rested his head between his hands, counting the beats of his temples. The cabin door opened, and he saw the Hungarian standing in the shaft of gray light. "Daybreak, gentlemen!" The end. This is the reading of After the Race by James A. Gregg, by James Joyce from the collection of Dubliners, first published 1914, OV Magazine Publishing in June 2023. The OV Magazine design was by Thanos. All right. And now I have one more for you guys. This one is a personal favorite of mine. I've liked it ever since I heard it. Ooh. I must have been in 4th or 5th grade, perhaps even before then, but I especially took note of it once again when I had a poetry class in high school. I knew it very well by then, and yeah, I was delighted to have it in my poetry class, and I think it is the time of year where this fits perfectly. As you can see from the image, we have a artistic rendition of snow-filled woods and a man on a horse. Perhaps the horse has some bells to it. And yeah, maybe you guys are already guessing what it may be. We will see. But it is, like I said, a personal favorite of mine. So here we go into the next one. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistake. The only other sounds the sweep of easy wind and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Read by James A. Gregg. Thank you, guys. All right. Hey, guys. Quick one tonight. Not too bad. All that took roughly 30 some minutes. I think we've been recording for like a total of 27, it looks like. So thank you everybody who came through tonight. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, this was unexpected. I kind of thought I was screwed, but at the end I was blessed with an ability to get the recording working, and I figured out how to get everything patched through. I explained that kind of at the beginning, and I'm just thankful to have the new audio setup. It's going to require a little bit more work and fine tuning. I will be listening back to this on YouTube. The reason for me doing so, let's see, is it links? There it is. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be listening to this back on YouTube. You can see the link there for YouTube. I'll try to get it posted soon this week. I don't know. Usually with the readings, I've been going later in the week, but this one's kind of unique. So we'll see. I'm going to hear how it sounds, make sure that it sounds good for you guys. See if I need to do anything with the mic settings, you know, if I'm drifting too far away, if I'm losing how things are sounding. So basically, that's what we're saying. Yeah. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. Looking forward to the new year. We're just going to keep it low key, spend time with family. Feel free to put your New Year's plans in the chat or jump in that Discord and tell me what you guys are planning for the new year. That'd be interesting to hear. If you guys have any suggestions for short stories, poems, or other things, if you wrote something yourself, maybe you wrote a series of poems yourself, don't forget, that's what this is all about. I want it not to be just about me. I love to highlight other great works. Thank you, Ryan, to the Boog family out there. Merry Christmas to you guys as well. And appreciate you coming in and supporting every Sunday. Yeah, if you guys got things that you want to contribute to the stream, something you want to hear read aloud, contact me. You can either message me personally here in Twitch, or you can jump in that Discord and message it there. We have a thing for ideas. And let's see. Absolutely. Thank you for the early birthday. Yeah. What do you guys think about tonight's readings? 2 Robert Frost poems, sandwiched James Joyce in the middle there with After the Race. I might have to do a little more research. Maybe it was written by somebody else in the James Joyce short stories of Dubliners. That's something I did not personally approach in college. I just found it looked interesting. It's kind of out there, a little abstract. There's no like real huge plot to it, other than the fact that sounds like a young guy who's got a father with money. He's kind of getting worldly experiences, but he is also careless with his money. And it might be perhaps because, you know, he's had a lot given to him, and daddy's been there to bail him out a little bit, and there he is caught up with more affluent men, although that Valona guy was probably more of a life of the party choice than what he brings in his prosperity. And yeah, I think Jimmy's finding himself caught up in the circles of the motorists and the racing, and the gaiety of it all. And there he is, drinking heavily, and to the point where his head's throbbing at the end of the night, and he knows he's probably going to regret some of the decisions he made. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the poems. That's super cool. Yeah, I almost did a Swinger of Birches, but then I'm like, well, it's kind of a spring. That's like more of a spring one, maybe. I don't know. But they do talk about how the ice and the storms bring down the birch trees, but I always think of it in my mind as more of a spring one. But yeah, those are the 2 Robert Frost poems I like. I like a few of his, actually. Pretty good poems, Robert Frost. But the Stopping by Woods, man, that one's gotten me way back when. I think it reminds me of when I was a kid, and just when the snow is falling slowly, and it's something to do with the way the clouds come down, right? The low clouds and the snow lining the ground, that insulation, all the sound seems to be kind of buffeted and like concealed in a way. There's a coziness to it despite the cold, right? And a silence that is unlike anything. Where if you sit there still, like I'd be like in a snowbank, and I'm kind of just looking around at all the different Christmas lights in my neighborhood. And we lived in a cul-de-sac. And so there I am in the snowbank in the cul-de-sac, looking around at all the lights and watching the snowflakes come down, and you can almost hear each snowflake landing on the snow, right? And just that stillness and quiet of it. So when I listened, when I saw this poem, and it really resonated with me, because it took me back to that moment where I'm like, I do know what it's like to kind of just stop by, as the snow is falling. And the other thing that I really took away from it was, being a wrestler from the age of 5 and being in sports and schoolwork, and I definitely took a lot of that hard work, that mentality, the discipline that it takes to do all that. And so when he ends with miles to go before he sleeps, that resonated with me a lot as well, because I'm like, well, yeah, me being a type 1 person, this type A personality, Enneagram type 1, I'm like, I got so much to do. Like sometimes I'm either so exhausted, I have no choice but to go to sleep. I know I need to go to sleep, or I'm falling asleep doing whatever it is I'm doing. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's still so much more to do. Which is kind of funny in a way, because that's how this week went with trying to get to this stream tonight. So I've been talking a lot. If you guys are still hanging out and listening, I appreciate you guys so much. You guys are awesome. I'm going to have to check out real quick here. See who is online. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to hand you over to Rebel Gaming. Again, on last minute notice, I'm so happy that a lot of you guys showed up today. And I didn't think that it was going to happen. I'm trying to work on bigger things, which is continuing to get you guys content for Ral. And Turb and I are also working on getting We Delete rolling out. So, yeah. We're going to get that raid going here now. Thank you guys so much for coming through. And I look forward to seeing you on the next Sunday. Yeah. Otherwise, come check me out on my birthday. Would appreciate it. Catch you guys later. Bye.